Hello bitches, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm gonna do a little more of a self-care mental slash emotional health video for artists that need to stop doing these 6 habits. So a lot of these, just so you know, are based off of my own personal experiences, which is why, there are only 6 of them that I'm mentioning, because ultimately there's probably a shit ton of bad habits you need to stop as a person, not just an artist. But for this video, I'm just gonna list the top 6 that I've dealt personally with as an artist and as a person. Also, in case if you're getting distracted by this, it's a pimple patch. A bish accidentally, popped a pimple while washing her face. So, toxic art habit to stop number 1, don't fucking pop your pimples. Okay, but for reals, the first habit that you should stop as an artist is giving too many shits, because not only will giving too many shits prevent you from laying down that line on a sheet of paper, but it's going to prevent you from doing many other things beyond just your artwork, like things that associate with what you're going to do with your art, like posting it online, connecting with people, sharing your portfolio, applying to jobs, doing interviews, pitching ideas, and so forth. So, of course, I believe that artists should care to some degree or to some level, because at the end of the day, art is a communication between you and your viewer. If you want people to understand your work, there is going to be a level of compromise, but I'm just talking about people who are struggling to take that initiative to just either post their work online, just draw something on their sketchbook, even if it's not going to come out perfect. And one of the things that I did to just kind of stop myself from giving too many shits is to just keep in mind that I'm doing it with the intention of getting it done and not to make it look great. That's why I kind of keep books like shit books or sketchbooks that aren't the most beautiful sketchbooks, so there's less pressure to make art look good on it or to serve that sketchbook justice or whatever, because it's, at the end of the day, it's just a fucking sketchbook. Like, it's not going to care what you draw on it. And when it comes to posting your stuff online, I always try to just remember that if I am posting stuff online, it's just for the sake of showing my progress. I'm not here to just make a beautiful page and just, leave it like that. When you do studies and when you go to figure drawing classes or art classes and you're keeping a collection of your artwork, it's for the sake of studying. It's not for the sake of putting it on Instagram. But if you do decide to post it on Instagram, just be aware that you're not doing it for the sake of making everything beautiful. Art is always going to be a continuous practice and skill. So that's why I think it's important for you to just keep in mind that when you are making art, it's not for the sake of making it beautiful. You're just trying to be better than what you were yesterday, just like everything else in life, And I personally feel like my life is better like that when I just treat my Instagram as a place to just post and move on. Like, I don't really linger on it for too long. So the second habit that you need to stop is the glorification of overworking, because I feel like when we're young and we're in middle school, high school, college, we're given a lot of pressure to finish a lot of work within a very short amount of time, and we feel like if we don't get it done, we're just worthless pieces of shit. But of course, this will affect and damage your mental, emotional, physical health, and it might even cause you to neglect other bubbles in your life. Like, you forget to take care of yourself, your social life, or the other things that make you you, just because that's what society, often pressures us into doing. I feel like sometimes it gets to the point where it's actually toxic, where students might actually be like, oh my god, I'm working so hard, like, holy shit, I'm losing like 5,000 hours of sleep, never sleeping.
Hashtag no sleep team.
Or whatever. And I simply don't agree with it, just because I believe in, living your life like a human, and I feel like there's a lot more to life than just your work or your career or your grades in school. And I don't think that people should believe that their grades or their results in school or at work is the only thing that defines them. Like, how you treat others, how you live your life, and how you see the world are things that also define who you are. And I feel like, again, if you only do one thing your whole life, I feel like you're really missing out on a lot of the other bubbles that could have contributed to it and made you a healthier person. And for me, I just also believe in just keeping tabs with your emotional, mental health and working out and staying healthy, just so that you can live your life to your fullest potential. Like,
sorry, I'm not like one of those motivational speakers, but I guess that's what I'm becoming.
one of the things I really work on now to prevent going back to that lifestyle is just planning my life in terms of actually planning time for self-care, planning time to make time for your friends and your family, or going out and experiencing things, because naturally those are things that I would not plan to do. Those are things that I would say,
ooh, you need to take a backseat because you're not going to affect my career or my reputation.
So one of the things I do to plan is obviously keep a good planner that I like. This is the Blogilates 2019 planner, and it's a health planner and fitness planner overall, but I still use it to just like keep a checklist of the projects I'm working on and stuff like that. But wow, this is totally not sponsored, by the way, but you know, like inside you're able to make a checklist of the things that you're doing, and you get to keep track of what you're eating and the water you're drinking and the amount that you work out. And I felt like those are things that I could easily neglect in life because my projects always subconsciously take more priority. So again, you don't need to plan things to the T. Even with your projects that you want to manage and keep track of, just break down a big task into small little tasks every day. You don't need to be like, I need to draw this exact drawing and this panel of this page every single day. It's like, no, just say something like, do one drawing on Monday, 2 drawings Tuesday, 1 drawing Wednesday. It's really vague, really simple, but it keeps you just doing an action every day that will contribute to the bigger project you want to pursue, and of course keeping sure that you do the other things that are important in your life. So the third habit that you should stop as an artist is forgetting, ignoring, and neglecting your fundamentals slash foundations, because I find that once an artist either has improved in skill, and if they, you know, are a big artist now, they forget to revisit their foundations or the basics, in which ultimately, again, is the foundations to your art. And I'm not saying that this should be your focus to your life either, because I get it. Once you're higher in the skill level of art, there's really no need to just continuously be doing beginner baby steps. But there are times in life when, you know, you're approaching a very complex character design or a very complex story idea or just a complex sequence that you need to board out or whatever, and you overcomplicate shit to the point that really at the end of the day it comes back to the basics. Like really with character design, I feel like one of the things that a lot of students or artists that I see ignore are just your basic structure to the characters, or just how the characters really come back to just basic shapes at the end of the day. Even if you want to do animation, don't just get into animation without having done life drawing, still lifes, or just, you know, studying real life. Like even for me, I will say when I was little, I just immediately got into cartoons, but then I realized that I need to actually study art as art, like studying from real life, taking art foundations, taking AP art and figure drawings, and just observing and drawing what I see rather than just,
ooh, everything I draw has to be like some stylized thing and just, you know, character design. If I don't have a fucking style, I'm a worthless piece of shit kind of thing.
I feel like a really easy thing that you can do if you're someone who does need to revisit foundations or needs a place to practice basic art shit again. I preach this a lot of times in many of my videos, but just keep a shit book, which is just a sketchbook that really is where all your ugly shit goes. It's where your practice goes into. It's just where you want to remember how something works. It's just a sketchbook that's really just meant for you and nobody else, and that's where you practice your stuff. So I feel like, you know, if you're an artist that just got very easily carried away into finding your style, but you really are, you know, trying to find new ways of working around things, it's always good to revisit your foundations, and it doesn't make you a loser or like a beginner again just because you're studying that stuff. So the fourth habit that you need to stop as an artist and as a person is being a bitch to young aspiring artists who are just trying to learn and grow, because I feel like I get the impression that a lot of artists now who are skillful, or at least a lot of people in my school, always tend to have this very negative viewpoint on artists that are trying to, I don't know, like get into CalArts or trying to make it out there in the art world. And that's something that I've noticed in almost like any field. I feel like every industry is going to have that level of toxicity where, you know, the higher ups are always, some higher ups will always have some negative outlook on the people that are younger than them. And I just don't think that it's a healthy thing for yourself to be like, and it's not healthy for the community that you're a part of. At the end of the day, I feel like we all have to remember that we all came from somewhere. No one started off being an amazing artist the moment that they exited their mother's vagina, okay? Like, we all started off as little babies who drew some ugly shit at some point, okay? Like, if that's not my yearbook quote, I don't know what is. I see a lot of bullying online sometimes with art forums or art websites like DeviantArt, Tumblr, YouTube. Everyone is on a different stage of their journeys in life, and I feel like for you to just not be respectful of someone just because they're not on the same page as you is pretty close-minded, because at the end of the day, people are coming from everywhere, of all backgrounds. Everyone has a reason for why they are at where they're at, and I think we have to be more understanding as people and not just artists. So yeah, remember to be kind to people, because the person that you bullied or insulted when you were younger might be the person that you're working under in the future, and who knows, they might not even hire you in that case and, you know, prevent you from getting jobs in the future because you are being a little bitch. So you need to stop, and I mean the bad type of bitch, not the good bitch. I often also realize that the people who do criticize and project negativity onto other people and their artwork or their skill level are also people who tend to not really be happy with where they're at either. You know, it's just something I've noticed. So the fifth piece of advice I have, especially for artists who aspire to do their own projects or stories someday, is to stop listening to everything everybody says about your work, like in terms of feedback and criticism. I feel like when I was a student applying to CalArts, I would listen to absolutely everything everybody, you know, suggested to do with my art. Like if you told me to, like, you know,
Make those titties bigger, make that ass bigger, make those lips plumper on your character.
bitch, you bet I'm gonna fucking face-tune the shit out of my character. Obviously, looking back in hindsight, I should have been a little bit more selective about the feedback I got, because it can sometimes mislead you in a direction that you never really wanted your art to go on, but you just, you know, do what society tells you to do. It's really not that different from, you know, life and societal pressures itself. So you have to remember and really hold on to tightly about what your intent is and what you are trying to say to this world with your art. Sorry, I get a little philosophical, but I think that you have to really remember, especially when it comes down to your stories and your ideas, a lot of it usually comes from what makes you you. A lot of it comes rawly from your life experiences and what is true to yourself. And when you present it to a bunch of people, you're very prone to altering the truth of what you're trying to say. So that's why you really have to remember what you're trying to say and really like defend your work when you need to. Again, the biggest thing you want to defend is your authenticity. The advice that you do want to listen to is when people are making your voice stronger, or when they're supporting your idea further or helping you clarify it more so that your audience or your viewers can understand easier. Because I feel like a lot of the times when I'm trying to formulate my ideas, it might make sense to me, but it might not make sense to the people that I'm trying to say it to. So it kind of helps when you have suggestions from people to help clarify that idea, but of course you want to make a compromise and make sure you're not making it too fucking obvious if you want to leave some room for thought or some food for thought, or just make things a little bit more abstract, because it's a form of self-expression. So just to make sure that when you're trying to create your own work, ask yourself, is this still what I was originally trying to say, or is it a blob of everybody's opinions? ask yourself that question before you commit to making these big changes into your project, idea, and story, and hopefully you get to stay true to yourself while you're creating your idea. So the final piece of advice I have for artists and people in general, and this is something I emphasize a lot on this channel, is to stop associating your art with your self-worth, because at the end of the day, we are all people. We are all humans. There is a human behind the artwork you make. You are not here just to make art. There are two simple truths in life, and it's that you're gonna be born someday, which is why you're here, and you're gonna die someday, which is why you won't be here in the future. And art is just something that you do in the in-between, but it doesn't make you you. It's just an aspect of your life, but it's not your whole life. So I don't think it's really worth getting so hung up over your skill level at this current phase in life. I feel like if you're never going to be happy with the level your art is at, you're just never going to be happy with yourself. So you have to find some level of detachment when it comes to your art, your skill level, and just where you're at, because like I said in the other things I mentioned, you're going to be at a different level from everyone else. Everyone else is on a different journey, and where you are is just where you are, and you can never be anybody else. Sorry to break it to you, but there's no magic potion that's gonna make you Glen Keane. I remembered when I first started school at CalArts, that was when I viewed my art in the most negative light, just simply because I was so shook by all these other amazing artists in my school. I didn't understand why I was at this school, just because I didn't feel like I was at the same level as everyone else. I felt like my art was kind of boring. I felt it was very general. I just felt like there was nothing edgy or cool about it. And that was just my own inner demon speaking to myself. So in a way, I kind of started to neglect art and ignore it, because doing it and looking at my own art every day kind of hurt me and was a reminder of how shitty I was. But it only made me feel shitty because I thought that my art equals myself, in which it does not. While I was ignoring art and not really paying as much attention to it was when I was actually spending more time with my friends, going out and doing things, and in a way it was a curse and a blessing. It was a blessing because I was never the type to socialize and go out and live my own life, which is something that I realized I needed to do. And then at the end of the day, I came around and started to do art more again. And I applied a lot of what I learned in life to my art, and that's what allowed me to have a healthier way of viewing my art and myself. But in a way it was a curse, because of course I had to go through that process of viewing myself as shitty because of my art. But I mean, at the end of the day, it kind of made me who I am today. So I feel like it's just one of those negative things in life that I personally had to go through in order to find my value as a person and as an artist. So yeah, there are your pros and cons to that. So live your life, remember to be a decent human, and I'll see y'all in the next one. So stay wholesome, bitches.